Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I want to quickly go over this new lens I just bought. Is Thypoch 28mm f1.4 lens. The lens came with this box. This is not dirt. This is just a design, kind of a vintage looking sleeve. Inside of the sleeve, there's this box, and here you have the metal lens covers, the metal lens hood with its cover. These are all metal, really well built, high tolerance, high quality. And then you have this certificate of quality, and then a QR code you can scan that will take you to their Thypoch website for the instruction manual. The instruction manual will tell you the lens spec and a little bit of basic information. But what I'm covering today, this is not an open box video. What I want to cover today is something that I just experienced last night, and it was not on the menu. Okay, so that had to do with the lens calibration, the rangefinder calibration. So I have here is my old trusty Leica M240 camera. I had this camera for 10 years. Last night when I decided to check out the rangefinder. I mounted this lens onto the camera and focus on infinity. I was shooting a island offshore, about I'd say 5 miles away, 4 or 5 miles away, and I was able to take a clear shot. The image is sharp with the lens set at infinity, but the rangefinder is not. The rangefinder tells me that I can get a clear. The focus is to the island is correct. It's right here. So, but which is not true. I had to be on infinity. So there's a little bit of, you see, travel. But once I set the lens on the infinity, the rangefinder ghost image actually went past the solid image in the viewfinder. Okay, so that tells me that this lens is out of calibration for the rangefinder. I need to calibrate the lens. How you do it was not covered in the instruction. And look in the back of the lens. This is to me, it looked very similar to TT Artisan 28mm at 5.6 lens I have. Basically loosen the three screws and rotate this brass ring either clockwise or counterclockwise, and then just by a little bit, not by a lot, and then lock it down and then put on the camera and double check the focus, right? With this lens, I tried that. It didn't work because I feel like the you would expecting this brass ring to either elevate or not, or going up or going down by rotating this brass ring, right? Maybe it does, but it just certainly not enough. It wasn't enough. So so I went back to the drawing board. I looked at this lens. If you look at this, right, once lens is mounted, this marker is right in the top, and then when I focus this lens, the brass ring does not move. So that means only this part here of the brass ring touches the cam arm. So the position of this at this location right here is the most important for my camera to know where the lens is at, right? So I learned last night that you do not need to tighten the screws. Excuse me, that's my dogs. You do not need to tighten these screws. You just need, the screws are used to, you turn this, it changes the position of the brass ring a little bit. So you just need to play with it, play with these screws, play with them to get the proper distance on the brass ring. Okay. The other thing I learned last night is, at first I tried to lock down these screws, these three screws, right? By the way, these were they were not Phillips screws nor flathead. These were Torx screws. So tiny little Torx screws. At least my torque bit worked really well. My Allen key didn't. Okay, so I think this is our Torx screws. It could be Allen. I just didn't have the right size for it. Anyways, so playing with these three screws, you may have to move the ring a little bit to the left or the right, but in combination of those, it should get your rangefinder calibrated. Take your time. One thing that happened to me is when I locked these screws down, when the lens set at infinity, okay, this brass ring moved a little bit. As you can see, the amount of tolerance between the brass ring and the mounting, the lens mount, is it's very tight. So result of it, this brass ring got decentered a little bit, and I couldn't move very much my focusing ring. So I highly recommend when you figure out the correct distance or height of this brass ring, try to go to a near focus and then finalize the screws. That way you know for sure that this brass ring is centered inside of the lens mount. Otherwise, you're gonna have a little bit tight focus or a jammed focus ring. Okay, so see, mine is fixed. So if after you're done with your calibration, if you cannot focus like what I do, how smooth it is, you did something wrong. So you may have to revisit your work. Okay. Right now this is perfect. So after I calibrated the lens, I took it out and did some night photography with it, with the lens wide open, and it was sharp. That's the other thing. So when you calibrate this lens, you want to make sure not only your infinity is in focus, you also need to check your near focus is accurate as good as well. That is something a working lens is supposed to do, right? So yeah, it takes a little bit of tweaking. For me, it took me about 2 hours to do this. I didn't want to script the screws, or I had to do everything very carefully. I want to point that out. So when I jammed this brass ring, right, I had to unjam it, and in order to get some more room to work with, I have to take this mounting ring off carefully. As you can see, the mounting dot is right here, the lock is right here. It's in a right orientation with this infinity lock. Okay, so I took the ring off. I found there were 4 shims, that's shim rings, that's underneath this mount. So, which is kind of cool. That means the manufacturer really tried to calibrate the lens properly. They didn't just slap a lens mount on the back of the lens. They actually looked, and some of those shim pieces, there are 0.02 meters, and some are 0.2. Not 0.02 meters, 0.02 millimeter probably, and some are 0.2 millimeter. Very, very thin, almost paper thin, a little bit thicker than paper, but metal shim that went underneath this mounting ring. So it's kind of cool, kind of neat. This lens, I want to say that it really brought a new life to my M240, because on this camera you can only focus in the middle, either through the optical viewfinder or the the LCD, the live view mode. It does not allow you to focus off center. So with the longer lenses, especially if you want a shallow depth of field, it's almost impossible to focus off center. So with this 28 mil at f1.4, it has enough depth of field I can focus and recompose. So essentially this lens brought new life to my M240, so that I'm really happy with. I will use this camera a lot in the coming days. Definitely this lens, it's here till I'm gonna keep. So it's not going anywhere. I would highly recommend this lens to anyone looking for a quality 28mm lens. If you are using a mirrorless camera and adopt this M mount lenses, you don't even have to worry about the calibration, because that calibration really only thing has to do with the rangefinder uh, focus in the optical rangefinder focus in the Leica. So if you use adapter, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to worry about it. So that's something to keep that in mind. Thanks for watching. You have a good one.